Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson, and today we need to talk about something that cuts deep, not just politically, not just culturally, but spiritually. On the morning of August 27th, 2025, inside the wall of Annunciation Catholic Church and school in Minneapolis, Minnesota, families gathered for what have been a joyful occasion, the back to school mass. Children were there with their teachers, parishioners, sat quietly in the pews, parents beamed with pride. It was supposed to be a moment of blessing and hope and community. Instead, it became a battlefield. A 23-year-old former student, Robin Westman, Robert Weston, but we'll talk about that, armed to the teeth, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, opened fire from outside the church, spraying bullets into what should have been one of the safest places in America. When the gunfire stopped, two children, just 8 and 10 years old, were dead. 17 more people lay wounded, some of them children, others elderly parishioners who had just come simply to pray. The shooter ended his own life before police could interfere, leaving behind devastation, broken families, and a manifesto that revealed extremist ideology, anti-Catholic hatred, and the fingerprints of an online radicalization. Now, think about this. Two kids left home that morning with backpacks and lunchboxes. They didn't come back. Parents who thought they were sending their kids to a safe sanctuary are now planning funerals. That kind of pain doesn't heal. That kind of wound that scars a whole community tore through Minneapolis. Let's be honest. This wasn't just another shooting. This was a targeted act against a church, a school, community of faith. This was a hate crime. This was domestic terrorism. This was an attack on what should be the most sacred ground in any community, a sanctuary. Okay, let's start with what matters most. The victims. Two children are gone forever. 17 more people, students, teachers, parents, grandparents, are wounded, some critically. Every one of those lives is changed permanently. The teachers who shielded kids will carry trauma for years. Parents who ran into the chaos will never forget the sound of gunfire echoing through the stained glass. The children who survived will have nightmares that no child should carry. And this isn't just statistics. This is raw human suffering. And while the media will cycle through the numbers, those families are living a nightmare that doesn't end, even when the cameras move on. Now, Westman wasn't some mysterious figure. He was a former student of the very school that he attacked. At some point, his mom worked there. But anyway, investigators found a manifesto filled with anti-Catholic bigotry, extremist ideology, and radicalization from some dark online corners. This wasn't random. He boarded up the doors to trap the victims inside. He came prepared with multiple weapons. This was premeditated hatred aimed squarely at the faithful. And yet, watch how the mainstream dances around calling it what it was, or what it is: a hate crime. If it had been any other house of worship, a synagogue or a mosque, we'd have wall to wall coverage about religious bigotry and terrorism. But because it's the Catholic Church, you hear softer words like tragedy, incident, gun violence. Folks, this was terrorism. Don't let anybody water it down. Here's one of the bigger issues. Sanctuaries are no longer safe. We've seen it before. Charleston, Sutherland Springs, Pittsburgh. Now Minneapolis joins this list. Faith communities are being targeted. Why? Because in a collapsing culture, faith represents order. Faith represents morality. Faith represents tradition and truth. And for radicals, that makes churches enemy territory. The results? Congregations live in constant fear. Ushers double as security guards. Parents glance at the doors during worship. Faith is supposed to be a refuge. But America has let its sanctuaries become battlefields. That says something not just about crime, but about culture. Society that cannot protect the places of worship is a society in free fall. Friends, in the face of stories like this, it's easy to feel hopeless. But there's a simple way to push back. Put your dollars where your values are. Someone like 7 Weeks Coffee. This is coffee with a mission. 10% of every purchase goes to pro-life pregnancy centers across America. That means when you drink your morning cup, you're not just fueling yourself. You're fueling a movement that values life. I drink it myself. It tastes fantastic. And we're coffee connoisseurs at my house. And it matters. So go to 7weekscoffee.com, 7weekscoffee.com. Grab a bag and make your morning part of the fight for life. Okay, let's pivot to leadership, or the lack thereof. What were the safeguards? What were the interventions? Westman brought his weapons legally. He was flagged in no system. He walked right into the church and turned it into a war zone. This is what happens when a country is more interested in, quote, tolerance for extremism than protection for the innocent. When the FBI spends more time monitoring parents at school board meetings, remember that last year? Than radicals on message boards, you'll get blood in the pews. Leaders fail these families. Not because the laws don't exist. It's because priorities are upside down. And we can't ignore the media circus. Watch how this will play out. Politicians will use this shooting as a prop for their pre-planned speeches. Some will blame guns. Others will sidestep the hate crime angle. But very few will stand up and say, we're under attack because faith itself is under attack. It's easier to argue about policy than it is to confront the deeper sickness in our culture. But the truth is, this wasn't about a tool. It was about hatred. Hatred of faith, the hatred of tradition, the hatred of values that churches represent. When leadership ducks the truth, nothing changes. All right, so where do we go from here? We can't accept sanctuaries becoming battlefields. We can't just shrug and say, it's the world we live in. No, it's not. We must draw lines. Churches must step up with courage, yes, spiritually, but also practically. Security, preparedness, vigilance. Families must demand accountability from leaders who treat faith as an afterthought. And believers must reject the fear that would silence worship. Because if we allow fear to win, radicals succeed. The answer is courage, not blind optimism, but firm resolve. The same courage our forefathers showed when they worshiped under threat, when they built communities in the face of hostility, when they declared faith essential no matter the cost. That's the call for today's church. Now, what y'all know is that you won't hear this sort of talk in mainstream outlets. They won't touch the faith angle. They won't call it terrorism. They won't admit that faith is under attack. That's why the morning report matters, because we're independent. But independence only works if you stand with us. So if you want to help keep us have this voice be strong, go to patreon.com/morning report. That's patreon.com/morning report. Your support, $5, $10, whatever you can, helps us stay free from corporate strings and keeps the truth coming. Join our community today. Let's keep building this platform together. Folks, the Minnesota church shooting is more than a tragedy. It's a wake-up call. 2 kids are gone. 17 others are wounded. Families are shattered. And for what? Because someone who was radicalized by hate decided faith was the enemy. This is the America we live in now, where sanctuaries aren't safe, where leaders won't tell the truth, and where the faithful are left carrying the cost. But here's the hope. The church has seen worse. Faith has survived worse. From the catacombs of Rome to the churches of Charleston, believers have stood firm in the fire. And we will again. The question is, will America stand with them? Or do we let faith be hunted, mocked, and dismissed? For my part, I refuse to accept a future where sanctuaries are war zones. I refuse to let this tragedy be another headline. And I believe you won't either. So let's fight back. Courage, strength, and with faith that refuses to bow. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.